Thank you, parents and teachers of the West LA PTA, for giving me a chance to speak to you tonight. I know that you are considering a very important decision, whether or not to require school uniforms in your high school, middle schools, or elementary schools. I know that many parents, like the research has shown, have many mixed opinions about this subject, but I think my personal perspective may help. My name is Lexi. I just graduated from a high school in the Valley, but I spent my first 2 years of high school in this area. My new school required uniforms like the one that I can show you in this picture. My old school in this area did not, so I have lived both sides of this issue. I can tell you from both my experience and from what I have read, requiring school uniforms is a great policy for you. It is a policy that I especially recommend for the West LA School District. I totally understand the arguments of both sides of this issue. In fact, I initially hated the idea of uniforms. I hated the idea of losing freedom of expression and individuality. I hated the idea of dressing like everyone else did. So I completely understand why people are against them. But my real life experience changed my mind completely. From my own experience, it's not even close. For so many reasons, I believe that school uniforms would make schools so much better, both for kids and even the teachers. I'm sure that you have heard all the arguments for and against school uniforms, but you have most likely not heard an argument from an own student's perspective who has gone through wearing uniforms and not wearing uniforms. From what I have read, there are two main reasons against school uniforms. First, as I have said, is the fear of losing the freedom of expression and individuality. In fact, Dr. Alan Hilfer, a senior psychologist at the Children's and Adolescents Unit at the Brooklyn Medical Center, conducted a study that found that actually clothes are a source of expression for children, and as kids get older, they become increasingly resentful of uniforms. But from my experience, the freedom of expression is also a curse, and you're not so free. Clothes are a root cause of so many social and sexual pressures. The reality is that kids at my first school in West LA spent a huge time worrying about clothes and judging others for their clothes. I remember the summer before I started school here. 2 girls called me up and said, "We need to take you out shopping to buy clothes before school starts. Kids will make fun of you if you aren't wearing something cool." From before my first day, I learned that what I wore was one of the most important things in this school. The pressure to buy expensive jeans and purses and other clothes was nonstop. The kids with the cool clothes were just the more popular kids, and that was just the way it was. Buying expensive clothes made me feel accepted and even liked, but it also made me feel that what was more important was on the outside and not what was on the inside. Of course, I hated giving up these great clothes and my own sense of style when I went to my new school and had to wear uniforms. But after only a week of transition, I was so relieved. The conversations at school was not about what people were wearing, but it was what they were like on the inside. What I think we all care about here, parents, teachers, and kids, is just creating a great learning environment. Even Dr. Hilfer says uniforms do eliminate competition, pressure, and even allow kids to focus better, especially in the lower and younger grades. From my experience, Dr. Hilfer's conclusions apply to all grades, not just younger grades. The second popular argument against uniforms is that there is no actual concrete evidence that uniforms help grades, attendance, or discipline. In fact, some say uniforms might hurt these things. While I have looked at all these studies that I could find, and as I am sure you know, that there are a lot of studies that come out that have two sides of the issue. For example, there's a study by the professor from the University of Alabama and from Notre Dame that found that uniforms do not improve attendance, behavior, drug use, or even academic achievement, and in some cases hurt it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the study from the University of Houston, they found that actually uniforms trigger improvement in test scores and attendance, especially for girls in middle school and high school. And a professor from the Liberty University studied data from a school district in Tennessee and found that uniforms are significantly improved graduation rates, but had no impact on attendance rates or academic achievement. You probably know about these reports and many others. I think we can all agree here that they show that studies are totally mixed and based off of geographic area and are probably very biased based on the researcher. But for me, they show that the reason to adopt uniforms is not to improve test scores because the evidence is so clear, but it is to create a positive and safe learning environment at the school where the emphasis is more on what the person is like on the inside and not what they're wearing on the outside. The studies don't really focus on that, but in West LA, especially focusing on the substance of the person would be so great. As I have said from my own experience, uniforms just reduce social pressures. They also reduce another set of pressures. Pressures from boys that clothes often create. In my experience, when girls are in middle school and high school, they dress however they want, and they usually show more skin. Girls don't realize the distraction this creates for boys, because girls usually are dressing to look cool for other girls and guys to notice. Oh, but guys definitely notice this, everyone, and they are very immature about it. They stare at the girls, they sometimes make fun of the girls. Uniforms eliminate almost all this because uniforms aren't that sexy, as you can tell by looking at this picture. But they are neat, they help you focus on schoolwork, and they help you focus on schoolwork so much more. Guys don't stare at girls as much, and they're so much more focused and mature, and as a result, girls are more comfortable at school and are able to learn better. Uniforms just take so much tension out of the air. In addition to all these reasons why uniforms are great things, uniform is a great thing, uniforms are also just way more practical. They make a student's life so much easier. This may seem silly, but getting ready for school in the morning used to be such a hassle every day. I'm sure a lot of parents in the audience can relate to this. It took me an hour to get ready, choosing between outfits and making sure it was approved by my mom, because she also had to have an opinion on what was right to wear. But after I changed schools, my only decision in the morning was whether to wear a white or a green shirt, khaki pants, or a plaid skirt. Reducing my clothing options did something else other than reducing stress. It reduced the time to get ready in the morning to only 15 minutes. This added 45 minutes to my life every morning, whether it was to sleep, whether it was to study last minute for a test, or actually eat a well-balanced meal, a well-balanced breakfast. And this was all because of uniforms. I understand if people in the audience have different opinion about uniforms. I understand how uniforms might seem to stifle students' freedom of expression. I understand how it might delay kids from learning how to deal with the real world, where there are superficial judgments on things all the time, and where guys make comments to girls for what they wear. I also understand how it just feels oppressive for a school to tell kids what to wear. I understand all of this because I felt all of those things when I started this new school, and was forced to give up all of my fancy clothes and had to wear what everyone else wore. But let me tell you, everyone, I quickly learned to love uniforms. I now believe that uniforms didn't take away my freedom, but gave me freedom. Freedom to focus on what people were actually like and not what they looked like. Freedom to avoid judgment based on clothes by girls and guys. Freedom to only get ready for school in the morning, and freedom for it to only take 15 minutes to get ready for school in the morning. It is true that uniforms delay the real world a bit, but maybe that's a good thing. Believe me, college is giving me a chance to catch up quickly. In conclusion, I defer to a much better presenter of this issue than me, President Bill Clinton. President Bill Clinton brought school uniforms up in a 1996 State of the Union speech and then another speech in March 1996 when he said, "If it means that the schoolrooms will be more orderly, more disciplined, and that our younger people will learn to evaluate themselves by what they are on the inside instead of what they are wearing on the outside, then our public schools should be able to require students to wear school uniforms." I could not have said it better than myself from my own experience. Uniforms do not solve all the problems in the school, but they sure could help, especially here in West LA in your own school district. Thank you for listening.